And to everybody out there, always remember this: you matter. Whether you think you do or not, you actually do. So operate like you do. Take hold of your power. Mind where your attention is going. Don't be a perfectionist about it. Don't be mean to yourself. Just go, you know what? I matter. And what I think about matters. I'm going to think about things I like. Mm.
Yeah.
Worry is daydreaming in the negative. So go ahead and daydream in the positive. It's all fiction anyway. Just create some fiction you enjoy. And you are so important. I'm not BSing you here. There literally is only one of you. Every single one of
Yeah.
you. There's only one of you. So get out there and have the day you want to have. And I am really glad. I mean, I'm not kidding. Every one of you, I'm really glad you're here. And thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. This is Jennifer Hale. You know me from video games, from animation, Commander Shepard in Mass Effect, Jean Grey in X-Men 97, a whole bunch of stuff. And you are listening to the Kasanova podcast. Aloha, mahalo, enjoy.
Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, 8 years in a row, the Kasanova podcast, and your host, Mekel Kasanova. And I am completely, deeply honored to have the legendary, the iconic, the one, the only Jennifer Hale on the show. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Mekel. I'm delighted to be here. I'm so happy to be here. We met, a few weeks ago, and it was delightful to meet you. Yeah, you're just an awesome human, and what you guys are doing there is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's an honor to have you on the show. Your work has just been phenomenal, everything you've done. But here's the thing. With this show, what I like to do is I like to peel back the curtain a little bit, because we know you're a voice actress. We know you've won all these awards, but I really want to focus on what it is that you love to do, your passions, your journey. And I see all the guitars behind you. I know you do music. I know you sing.
I started singing in clubs when I was 15. That's my first love. Yeah. And yes, it was I was totally illegal, but I still loved it.
So let's talk about that. Like, what got you to go into music? Like, what was the passion for that?
I have no idea. I just loved it. I remember being 12 and I went to camp. I used to spend all summer at camp, and I grabbed one of the counselor's guitars and just sat down. I didn't know how to play, but I wrote a song. And then at the end of camp, we all do this kind of like performance thing where we, each little group of kids does their song, and they did my song. I was like, what? That's amazing. I love this. And then I put it away. I didn't sing again, and I couldn't get myself to sing. I was so shy. And then one night I was 15 and with a bunch of friends and just got a little shot of Brave, shall we say, and started singing, and it just kept going from there. That was my true joy. It's just, and it still is. It still is. I think in my early 20s, time-wise, I felt like I had to choose between acting and singing, and I was already a full-time working actor, and I'm like, well, obviously I have to do the acting thing. And this little voice went, don't let go of the singing. Oh, but I was able to, I sing for work and stuff, and I write, and I've got a couple of songs out on Spotify, and
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Like, I definitely have to say, when it comes to music and singing, because I come from a very musical family. I'm the only one who can't read music, but if I hear it, I can replicate it on guitar or piano or violin. I sing too, or I used to sing. My daughters keep telling me, Dad, sing again. I'm like, no. But I need to.
Don't say no to the muse. You do not say no to the flow. If the flow wants to come, you just open your mouth and get out of the way. Let's go.
Yeah. I find that when it comes to like music and just the creativity, the art, the expression of it, it's so pivotal. Like, I feel like it's on us. We need to create, we need to express ourselves through music. And like, for you, like, how do you feel about it? Like, I know you have a lot of feelings about it, but like specifically for you, like, how do you feel about the creativity and the art of music?
I feel humbled. I feel incredibly humbled in those moments. I love to write. I haven't made the time to write because my priority right now is is parenting. That's totally one of my passions.
Hmm.
And my focus these days is kicking open doors for other people. That's always been my jam, and it's
Yeah.
what I'm doing. But musically, I always feel honored and humbled when creativity flows through me because I'm so clear it comes from a very large channel up in the
Hmm.
ethers, and when I get selected as a conduit, I'm like, "Oh, let me get out of the way and just let this do its thing, and please don't let me screw this up." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Like I love that you said about, being a conduit for when it comes down to youth from the ether, because it's you strike me as a very spiritual person, very in tune with creation with all, and it's just it's like how would you say your journey has been with spirituality?
Oof. It has saved me. I come from one of those extremely difficult backgrounds, I had the kind of background where my environment wasn't necessarily, uh that much of a horror show. It was a very benign, kinda lower middle class environment, but my home was
Hmm.
a battle. It was a very difficult home. And
Hmm.
so early on, as a very, very young kid, I was connected to some spiritual stuff that kept me alive, kept me here, kept me going.
Hmm.
And I'm very grateful for that. And I've stopped in at a few, a few forms of spiritual expression along the way. I'm like, "Teach me this thing. I wanna learn that thing. I wanna know this." I mean, I think at that camp that I was at that I mentioned one session, I had someone teach me the Lord's Prayer. I was like, what is this thing? How does it go?" And it was interesting to me, and because I think I'd read in either a Grimm's Brothers or an Anderson Brothers fairy tale years before,
Hmm.
there was a girl who was trapped up in some frozen environment and was being chased by the Snow Queen to be murdered because they were very
Hmm.
murdery fairy tales they had. And, um,
Yeah.
and she would say the Lord's Prayer, and every time she finished, the fog from her breath, the how you can see your breath, would
Hmm.
coalesce and form an angel. And she said it
Yeah.
so many times she had a ring of angels around her, and that
Hmm.
that drew me to that. And then in college, I stepped into, I learned a bit about Eastern religions, and that really called to me. I'm like, "This feels
Yeah.
very true to me." And, and I'm very lucky to have a mentor in this area, and I am very grateful for those teachings and follow them and appreciate them. And, to me, divinity is everywhere, however you define it, whatever
Yeah.
name you use for it, whatever faith you express, it's there, and our opinion has no bearing on it. So we can either get in the flow or we can be a rock getting tumbled by the water. I don't know. You pick.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we know nothing. I think we can perceive. I think I heard the science is we can perceive around 4% of matter that exists. And those were
Yeah.
the sharpest and most studied of us who blind mole rats who sorted that out. So who knows what's going on that we can't see or perceive? And I think humility is the order of the day. I mean, there are how many millions or billions of planets in the potential
Yeah.
universe? Like, and we think we're the only ones. Can we be more egocentric? I
I
don't
know,
know.
right?
I like to operate under humility, which is we really know nothing, just have a good time and try to do some good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just shut up and get in the flow. Okay.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. No.
opinion is very small. Yeah.
No, no, that's very true. Because I was actually I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they're one of those people that's like, I'm a realist, and they're like, oh, I look at this,
So arrogant.
I'm talking about realism, and I told them, I said, scientifically, we only see 0.0035% of reality,
You
and they're
know
like,
this too!
yes, yes. And
Yes!
I'm like, I'm
What?
looking at. I did a whole podcast with Patricia Tallman. We dive deep into this, and she's like, "You're
Oh,
into this?" I was like, "Yes." I'm like,
Mekel.
because for me, okay, so the way I got into really deeply into spirituality and understanding hermetic principles and esotericness, and just diving into spirituality was just because I don't know if I shared this with you before, but I previously had stage 3 colorectal cancer, and I was told that I had 6 to 7 months left to live. And the doctor's like, yeah, it's wrapped. That's it. Prep your family for it.
Dude,
And I literally was like, there has to be something, and
yes.
people were telling me like, oh, this is God's will. God is going to call you up. And I'm like, that doesn't resonate with me. And
Mhm,
so I just started diving deep into Eastern philosophy, going into esotericness. And
mhm.
I think it was My friend Ruben Langdon, he actually showed me like something about esotericness and the Kabbalion, and I dived deep into that, and I was like, this is really helpful because I'm really understanding that the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know, and I can't assume that okay, so the doctors are saying, oh, this, and this. Okay, cool. But when I'm diving into esotericness, when I'm diving into understanding even quantum physics, I started diving into that,
Mm,
and I'm like, so nothing that we perceive is ever solid or definitive. It's
no.
constantly in motion. So
Yes.
I'm like, okay. So if I have this, and I'm and understanding frequencies and laws of polarity and just the power of just not only positive thinking but
It's
aligning yourself vibratorily,
it's
you know?
vibratory because it's vibra we are bio-electromagnetic human
Yes.
beings, so the magnetism
Yes.
of your thoughts is real. That is a thing.
Yes.
That is I was listening my carpool this morning, I'm listening there's 2 brothers, and I'm listening to one, and he's excited and inspired, and the other is in a place of complaint right now. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's developmental or I don't think it's personality, but that's just where he is, and I'm watching
Mhm.
and I'm seeing what is magnetized to him because that's his focus, and what's
Yes.
magnetized to the other because that's his focus. And it's like
Yes.
and you can change your reality very more than
Yes.
you realize, certainly not completely. There are things that happen in all of our paths we can't intervene in no matter how hard we try, but there's an enormous amount of power we actually do have. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes. And like what I really came to realize that what you focus on expands.
Yes!
And
Thank
like,
you!
it's so true. And I started like when I was diving into this, I'm like looking at other people I know, I realized that a lot of people that I was surrounded with were very negative. Like they were the people who think they're positive, but they're very, very negative. And then I constantly saw that bad things or what we perceive to be or assume to be bad things constantly happen to them.
Yes.
And then I started looking at other people, I'm like, that are happy and they're not really concerned with everything going on. They're very just like what their focus is on happiness, wealth, abundance, and more so like abundance and health and everything else like that. And so when I started watching, observing, and hanging around the more positive people, I was like, oh, okay, things for me started changing.
Mhm.
And so when I started looking at my health, and one of my friends who's very spiritual was like, I know they say you have 6 to 7 months left to live. How about you, instead of thinking about, oh, okay, I'm going to be dead at the end, start thinking about just healing and just giving back to everyone. Like, I'm not sure if that makes sense, but like
It makes
putting
complete
yourself
sense.
in a putting yourself in a different vibratory nature, a
Yeah,
different mental space,
yeah.
and limit the amount of exposure you have because they're like, we're all just energy.
That
Energy
stuff
can
is
neither
toxic.
be,
Yeah,
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 you can't be created or destroyed, but it can be corroded if you're around negative people.
yeah,
And like not just completely ignore them, but limit your exposure to
yeah.
them. And I started doing that. And then I started feeling better. Like I was going for the treatments. I started feeling better and better. And then like the doctors are like, oh my God, you're responding to all the treatments.
Yes,
It's
yes.
I'm like, they're like, what? They're like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, I don't question it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, it's less thinking and more being.
Yeah.
Less thinking and more being. It's the and you hear this in business all the time, "You are the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most." Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because you're all vibrating and vibing together, and it
Yeah.
creates a thing, like, at a club, you just have to walk into a club, everybody's vibing together, and you
Yes.
go into a metal club, you're like, "Wow, maybe that's my vibe, maybe it's not." You
Yeah.
go into, like, a folk club, like, not my vibe, maybe my vibe, I don't know, like, and
Mm.
you'll find your lane.
Yeah.
Yes, I never forget retraining I had to completely retrain my vibe and my thinking, and I have a deep spiritual belief that I was born into the situation I was born into because my spirit was ready for a high challenge plan, and we were
Mhm.
gonna work hard, and we were gonna have a big immersion in suffering and pain and trauma, what they call complex trauma, and then
Mhm.
now it's time and use that to slingshot myself forward in life, which is what it feels like has happened, but it's happened out of a million tiny choices. Like, I would say
Mhm.
I entered my 20s, as a fairly functional person, a very functional person, especially considering what I came through, but not a deeply fulfilled or happy one. But I
Yeah.
recognized that I wanted to be, and I
Mhm.
worked toward it, and there was one specific instance where I It was around my work. I realized that I was dreading every single audition.
Mhm.
Absolutely dreaded it. I was avoiding it, I was putting it off, I was like, "Ugh." And I figured out I didn't understand why, so I was doing the old habit of beating myself into doing it, like, "Come on, come on, come on." "Don't be a piece of
Mhm.
crap. Let's go, let's go." Just really the old ways. And one day I kinda heard what was happening underneath, like, I got present to just it's like the curtain opened and I just saw behind the curtain for a second. I went, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
'Cause what I realized is that creative part of us that acts, that writes, that paints, that sculpts, that draws, that creates
Mhm.
comes up with business ideas, and I wanna do this crazy thing, and I wanna buy these houses, like that dreaming part of us is a little kid, like a
Yeah.
creative kid spirit, and the part that's like, "We gotta pay our bills, and we gotta do this, and we gotta do that, and we gotta adult," is our adult self.
Mhm.
If you turn to a four-year-old and they're like, "I wanna build this," and you're like, "How are you gonna do it? What about your taxes? What about this? What about that?" They shut down like that. And
Yeah.
what I was doing every time I auditioned was telling myself how wrong it was, how off it was. "Well, it's not gonna work because of this, and I should have done that." And you do that to your four-year-old a couple times, they're not gonna wanna come out and play anymore. So
Yeah.
I was in an internal war around this, and what I made myself do, it really keyed me into some of the larger I was already present to some of the larger negative thinking patterns I was really training myself out of, because that is the only way. There's no
Mhm.
magic pill, there's no single class or meditation retreat. I mean, there might be, tell me if there is, but if you're gonna take that's gonna flip that switch for you. It's like anything else, you gotta show up on the daily and slowly
Yeah.
but surely reform the clay.
Yes.
Rewire the network, the neuronal network, and so every time I would have a negative thought, I would and catch it. As soon as I got present to it, I would force myself to come up
Yeah.
with 3 positive alternatives, and it was so annoying, and I was like, "Oh my god." So I forced myself. Every single time I had that
Mhm.
negative thought, I had to come up with 3 positives, and it was the most annoying thing in the world. It would be I'd think something, I go,
Mhm.
"Oh, no! Now I have to do that stupid exercise again." And I did it over and over and over and over until I saw the world genuinely in a different way, in a very, very different way. And it's
Mhm.
so joyous. I This morning, I was coming out of dream time back into consciousness, and it was I was awakened with thoughts of just how wonderful life is and how loved we
Mhm.
are by the universe, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome. I can wake up to this every day. This is sweet." And then world
Yeah.
thoughts came in like, "Oh, I better do this thing, and did I do that thing? I'm behind on this." And I was like, "Stop, stop, go to 0. Just go to 0.
Yeah.
Go to
Yeah.
simplicity, go to peace." I mean, right now, I'm in a space in my life where I am not focused on building one single thing for myself, and it's weird and uncomfortable, but what I'm passionate about is building things for other people. Like, you cannot stop
Mhm.
me from building things for other people. I'm like, "Okay, I made this thing for you guys, and there's this thing for you guys, and what do you need?" It's just all I care about, and there is a part of my brain going, "But what if we were supposed to earn, and we were gonna and you're spending," and I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It is gonna fall into place because it always does." And it's just that act
Yes.
of retraining the brain to trust the quantum field, trust the larger intelligence, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to say this because it quells that anxiety. Because you forget, right? You're like, Are we sure about this? I don't know." It's like your friend who's a quote unquote realist. That
Yeah.
that word really, I find when someone hits me with that, whoo, I have to use an enormous amount of self-control because I find it to be such an arrogant move. 'Cause
It
it
is.
supposes that your individual perspective is greater, larger than mine, number 1, is greater,
Mhm.
larger than anyone's, and that you know far more than most of us. And
Yeah.
I just have that's when I pause and I force myself into a position of compassion and I go, "Okay, this is a person whose mind works in that way. They're not respecting me right now by diminishing, demeaning my ideas, but they can't see that. So my job but I can, and I can
Mhm.
see both sides, and my responsibility, since I can, is to behave according to my standards, which is inclusive, understanding, and compassionate." And
Yeah.
then I do the bulletproof glass trick, which is my favorite thing. Have you ever been to a
Ooh.
bank where they have that bulletproof glass between you and the
Yeah.
teller? So whenever I've had a couple people that I allowed into my life long term who were so, like, terrifyingly toxic, and I just thought it was
Yeah.
my job to get through it, but until I realized, "Oh, no, I'm supposed to go." Um, and, but whenever they would start their spew, I would just
Mhm.
imagine the bulletproof glass between me and them, and everything they said bounced off of it back and just sort of landed on the floor on their side of the glass, and
Wow.
just and I could stand there and I would be protected because I just would just, "Okay, that's about you, that's not about me." Somebody was,
Wow.
yeah. So oh my goodness. I posted a thing online the other day about a fundraiser I was doing around, an election thing, and I've never very public about my views around candidates
Mhm.
and stuff, but I was like, I'm gonna throw in because this is an important time, and I think that one choice is a little far more concerning than the other. I don't think either look, I think our system is so broken, it's ridiculous, but I do think
Yeah.
some things are striking me as very dangerous, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw in and see how I can support. And oh my goodness, wow, the trolls jumped into my timeline, but I don't read them because
Yeah.
what you said, what you put your attention on expands. I don't
Yeah.
want to expand the trolls. So, all blessings to you. I will not be reading your stuff. Have a
Yeah.
lovely day. You go on and do you, you know? And there were some respectful dissenters. I so appreciate them and respect them. And I liked some of their comments. Like, good for you. Respectfully
Mhm.
disagreeing. That's what we're all here for. And it was just so much drama around it. I finally made a post and I was like, "Look, I did this thing and some people were lovely, some people were trolls and who
Mhm.
cares? It's not about me or you. It's about them.
Yeah.
They're them. They're standing in their vibe, and if I attach myself to their vibe, that's on me, because I attached
Yes.
myself to your vibe. I interfered and got myself all wet in the water you were throwing around. Like, I coulda
Mhm.
stepped back and gone, "You do you. You enjoy that hose. I'm going over here." You know? I That's not mine. And I
Yeah.
lower my vibe when I do that. And my
Yeah.
responsibility, like what you were talking about a minute ago, the people who mind their own store. Like, that's our job, to mind the
Yeah.
store, keep your peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I saw that post and deeply resonated with me because
Mm.
and I actually I made a post myself about that because I have a lot of friends that are I don't often openly share people with people like my political opinions, and I'm just
Yeah,
like you where
yeah,
like system's really broken. One choice is definitely one I'm like air of caution on that one.
yeah,
But like what I started to see was a lot of people I knew became so consumed with politics and social issues to the point where it became their whole persona, their personality.
yeah,
And so I would talk to these people, and especially ones that I was friends with or associated with, and I would tell them, it's I love that you're passionate about wanting to inform people and create change. However, I'm like, you can't make it to a point where the only thing you talk about is just that because that's denying and robbing you
yeah,
of and the world of the uniqueness that is you,
yeah,
that that divinity that is you, if you're only talking about that.
yeah,
And a lot of them railed back against me, and so I ended up making a video where I said there are three types of people I don't really try to give too much of my attention to: people
yeah,
who complain, people who make politics their whole persona, and people who make social issues. Because what they fail to realize, and often, and this goes back to a conversation I had with Patricia Tallman, a lot of people operate out of the basal ganglia, the most
yes,
primitive part
yes.
of their brain, the
Your
most
dog
low
brain.
effort. Yeah, literally. I'm like,
Yeah,
and I said a lot of people operate out of that, but also the people who make these things that their persona, I'm like, you guys have to understand the etymological origin of the word persona. It's Latin for mask. You're putting on a mask. For a
yeah,
lot of these people, when you take it off, they don't have anything else. They literally make that them. And I'm like, that shouldn't be the case.
yeah. And it's also about disconnection and othering.
Yeah.
Whenever we're othering, we're in the end one I'll never forget, oh my gosh, when, Trump was elected the first time the time when he was elected, that's all I'm gonna say,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
in 2016 I blocked it out, 2016. Um,
Yeah. 2016. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Okay, okay, this is a lesson for all of us." I knew he was gonna be elected because there was just so much attention on him, positive and negative, it
Hmm.
doesn't matter. I mean, I think it was Wrigley, I wanna say in the early 20th century when advertising first came out, he's like, "It doesn't matter
Hmm.
if you say good stuff or bad stuff, just get the name right."
Yeah.
Because it's attention. He knew. He knew
Hmm.
these principles. They're hermetic principles. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And, So I was like, okay, it's a chance. It's a chance for us to learn, and we're gonna figure this out, and maybe he'll be okay. Maybe I'm wrong, you know? And
Mhm.
then he started appointing his cabinet, and the planet is extremely important to me, Pachamama, and all the
Mm.
trees and all the plants and all the beings and all the things. And when he appointed his Secretary of the Interior, who was an oil and gas guy and had all these policies that were gonna decimate the interior, I
Mhm.
literally went in my room and was yelling and throwing shoes. I was so mad. I was so pissed off, and I thankfully had another one of those openings and
Mhm.
was given the information that how I'm being right now is anger and rage and destruction, which is everything I think they are.
Mhm.
So I'm being everything I don't like.
Yeah.
So, othering and polarity is not the answer.
Yeah.
Pause, compassion, fierce resolve, and
Yes.
constructive action. Like, we can't sit on our butts and just go, "We should do something good." Like, we have to get up on our feet and actively do good. But I have a theory, I call it reverse bodhisattvas. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with bodhisattvas? They are
Yes,
because,
yes.
they're those, those beings on in the world who are so evolved that they could just ascend and become one with everything,
Yeah.
but choose to come back into the world in order to help others learn to evolve and ascend, etcetera, and they're incredible beings. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know, there's not like a directory of them or anything, but, you would say people like probably Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, like, you know, uh,
Yes.
Mahatma Gandhi, like Gandhi, that, those people are, and we probably know several in our personal lives who don't get publicity like that, who really and truly
Mhm.
are like someone, so and so's aunt and so's grandma and so's uncle. Like they're just gorgeous souls. I think there are reverse bodhisattvas
Mhm.
who are such giant, terrifying, destructive, manipulative a-holes that they
Mhm.
force good to stop sitting around and theorizing like, "It would be nice if people did blah, blah," and to get up on its feet and take action.
Yes.
I think it's all working in harmony.
Yes.
Sometimes that
Yes.
harmony's got nails along the road, but, it's still its own
Yeah.
harmony. It's just 12 tone, yeah, or 15 tone or whatever. Yeah. It's like
No, it's
yeah.
very true. It's very true. And like the other thing too, a lot of people keep missing is that part of feeling. Feeling is
Yes.
very powerful.
Yes, it is.
When they're embodying that anger and everything like that. Like there's this, what's that saying? Be careful with fighting monsters lest you become one. And a
Yes.
lot of us, like, when you get to a point where you hate the other side, you hate them, some people can become like that and have no self-awareness. And like with
Yeah.
this journey of spirituality, what I've learned is being present of your thoughts, yourself, it can be draining because like
Yes.
you're so conscious of everything.
Yeah, we can get into overthink real quick on that one. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but, and it's hard, and it's really easy, I think, to get into self-judgment. Like, "I shouldn't be
Yeah.
like that. I shouldn't be like this." I was shocked. I was going through a very public, skewering over something I did not do, but I was under a double NDA around the release of a game, and by the 3rd day in, there were 11,000,000 tweets about it, and most of which I was the villain, and I didn't
Hmm.
do what I was accused of doing at all, but I couldn't speak about it. I still, to this day, don't say much about it because that NDA still lives. Um,
Hmm.
Thankfully, Bloomberg came out with an article that nailed it. Well, nailed most of it, enough of it, um, and I really was grateful for that, but I couldn't speak to them. But in the middle of it, I did reach out to one of my mentors who is I I hate using this word because it's way overused. I'm not gonna use the word. Everybody has one, but he's the real deal. And,
Hmm.
I reached out to him and his wife and partner in the journey, and I was like, "Okay, this is what's happening," and I was surprised as heck to hear back that he got very spicy. He was like, "Oh, no. No, you don't." Because I always think of a shaman, a holy man, as someone who, like, is constant equanimity, constant just
Hmm.
even, and I'm like, "Oh, wow." So he allows the humanness to flow, but doesn't live in that.
Yeah.
So, it really gave me permission to feel my feelings. It's like when I raised when I first started my parenting journey, I had this principle with my son, which is all feelings are welcome. Every single one of
Hmm.
them, all of them. All behaviors are not. So you get to
Mhm.
feel whatever you feel. What you choose to do about it is another story.
Yeah.
That's where you're deeply accountable. And so I think that I find that useful in that spiritual journey. Like, I'm gonna have my human moments because guess what? I incarnated as human and I'm having the human experience with all the other humans. And some of them I don't like sometimes a lot I don't like them. And I'm just gonna have my moments, and
Yeah.
I can just call my close people and go, "Oh!" Okay, now what's my commitment? Breathe. Okay, energy is released. Breathe. And ironically, the more I do that, the shorter the grumpy periods get. I
Yeah.
just allow that energy to move through and remind myself, okay, am I gonna let them pull me to their level? What's my commitment in this world? Who do I commit to being? You know? It's a weird balance, and I don't have it by any means at all figured out. Because there are days when I feel superhuman and I just wanna fall down and not stand up tall and just, whine for a second.
Yeah.
And I do, I just keep it short. I get really bored really fast with complaining. I don't like it. It's gross. Yeah. Yeah.
But the fact that you allow it, you don't really fight it. You just allow it a time frame to run its course through you, and then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm done, move on. That's also very, very powerful to
Yeah.
do. A lot of people try to, and I find that I know it's another saying like that which you resist persists, and
Yes.
that's very true. It's
It's so
very
true.
true.
It's so true. Oh my god. It's a guarantee you want that thing to stick to you, push it away. Go ahead. Good luck. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's like the more like we when there are times when I because I mean you met my youngest daughter. She's three and a
She's
half, going on
adorable.
4.
Oh my god, I love her. Oh, your family is
She
so beautiful. Yes.
she's going through this phase right now where I think she's moving from being mommy's girl to daddy's girl, and
Mhm.
now she's like when she's with me, she's perfectly fine, and then when it's the three of us together, she's just like, oh, I don't, daddy, go away. I just want to be with mom, and like
Yeah.
to the point of meltdowns. I can't really go anywhere, like out to dinner or anything like that. And I'm like, I've gone through this with my other two daughters because I have a 11-year-old and a 10-year-old from
Yeah.
previous relationship, and
Mhm.
it's there are times when like I with my youngest one, I'm just like, breathe, okay, a little frustrated, a little annoyed with the behavior, but you know what? She's expressing herself. Let it be.
Yeah.
It's okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. She's learning.
And we share in this family. We share people, we share
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, those times are whoo, nothing will try you more than parenthood. Yeah, except maybe marriage.
No.
Marriage will try you too. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, it's well, I mean,
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
I spent a lot of time on my own the last few years. I mean, I'm a parent, but, in terms of partnership, I have not been in partnership for several years, and man, I'm very conscious, like, I get my way all the time. I don't have to compromise on anything. I get to go where I want, when I want, and do what I want. Like, this is fun,
Yeah.
but also there are pieces that I don't get,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's a whole evolution. Yeah, but I also spent years choosing control freaks. So, I'm enjoying my like reset now.
Yeah. But before I got with my wife Lehua, like I've been in other relationships. I've been married before, and like I realized that I constantly picked narcissistic, controlling partners. And it's like,
You're in
I
my
was like,
page. You're on my page.
I'm like, what? Why did I constantly was like, why is this happening to me? Why do
Yeah.
I keep picking partners like this?
Yeah.
And like, I had a friend that just told me, stop looking, because what you're doing is
Mhm.
you basically, because I come from, I may have, I don't think I've shared this with you, but
Mhm.
I'll share it. I'm
Mhm.
very open
Mhm.
about this. I come
Mhm.
from a very abusive household and
Same.
upbringing.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Physically abusive.
Mm. Mm.
My dad, screw it, because this might resonate with some people. My dad, for a whole year and a half, from the age of 13 to middle of 13 to me turning 15, I was living with him, and he was allowing the various women and their families that he was messing around with rape me for a whole time. So I
Oh,
went through that, and my
God.
dad was very controlling. And then when I told my mom about it, when I went back home, my mom beat me. It's like, oh, it's your fault. You should have said something. And
Oh,
like, so I deal with that. And being the youngest, being the runt, and I guess the less talented, I was always abused. So I was always around narcissistic,
yeah.
abusive people.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
when I got in relationships, I was attracted to, because again,
Yes.
if you focus on expands, I
Yes.
kept getting with very narcissistic people.
Yep.
And so it got to a point where it's like, my ex-wife, I had no idea. Like I always just thought she was moody. And I would always I'm a
Mm,
people pleaser.
of
Or I
course.
was.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was. And I thought like, okay, well, with she's mad, let me try and do this to make her happy. And then
Yeah.
like I didn't know that she had multiple personalities or schizophrenia or any of this other stuff until like we went through a divorce and I went through the custody thing. And then like I think that the thing that really got me was when I told her like I'm done, like I hit my limit. I'm like I
Yeah.
can't keep dealing with this. I
Yeah.
can't keep having you showing up at my job, throwing these tantrums or
Yeah.
and saying all this other stuff. And so she decided, she's like, well, the only way you're gonna leave me is I'm gonna, you're gonna have to die. And I was
Right.
like,
Oh, God.
what? And so
Oh,
literally
God.
she got a knife and came at me and cut me twice on my arm,
Oh
which
my
is kind
God,
of, this
Mekel.
tattoo is actually supposed to be on this side, but I got it mostly to cover the scars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like after that, I called the police, went through that, ended up getting custody of my kids. And I just was like, I'm done with relationships. I'm done with narcissistic people. And my friend's like,
Mm.
stop looking, focus on you,
Yeah.
center yourself, start getting more happy. And then, my wife came to my picture as a friend who was
Yeah.
pretty much the person who's like, stop focusing. That was
Yes.
her.
Yes.
And like you met her, like the vibe of her, like
She's
she's just
beautiful, beautiful
yeah,
vibe. That is such a powerful story you just shared, and it's gonna I just think it'll be such a gift to people going through something similar, so hats off to you, and my trauma wasn't that flavor, it was different flavors, but trauma is a thing, and to
yeah.
come out of it and I think there's this thing in psychology called a repetition compulsion, where when
Yes,
you're little
yes.
and you live in a particular dynamic, you'll go out and seek it out unconsciously as an adult, hoping that this time it'll be different,
Yeah.
and it just becoming aware of that alone is so powerful. I'm a huge, huge fan of therapy. I've been doing it on and off since I was 19, and it's just such a gift. It's like the university of how to skip past all the crap, you know? It's
Yes,
like
yes.
I think of it like a tennis. If I wanted to become a tennis pro, like a competitive tennis player, I would not pick up a racket by myself and wonder if I could figure it out, and if somebody gave me the opportunity to pick the brain of somebody who knew exactly how the game worked, I'm like, "Take my money." And that's
Yes.
how I feel about therapy. That's how I feel about everything. It's why I started, skillshub.life with my sister and our friend Bill, like, it's why I share so many things that I share, like, we are here to help each other, to lift each
Yes.
other up, and boy, do I ever know that people-pleasing path. Yeah, my mom was, borderline bipolar narcissist, and her specialty was maternal and child health. She had a psychology degree, so she was a well-armed materminator is what I called her, the
Wow.
materminator. Yeah, she's driven a few people to almost to near death. I
Wow.
saved one of them, like, on the spot, like, saved his life, like, when I was, like, 16, but, yeah, it's that path, it'll lead you into people pleasing simply because you're seeking safety,
Yeah.
and I think I don't know about you, but it develops this complex of, like, I can take it. I know I'm the strongest
Yes.
person in the room because y'all have no idea how sensitive I am and what I've been through. Don't worry about it, I got this. And then we get into
Yeah.
self-sacrifice, and then we get into people pleasing because it just feels safer than being
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a whole crazy spiral, but the brave path is to ooh, God, I say this and it weighs heavy on my heart right now. Yeah, is to be fully yourself in front of somebody that
Yes.
you care about, and that is terrifying. But we
Yeah.
can do it. We can do it.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Ah. Mm.
So
Mhm.
I know we're winding down. I really
Mm.
want to be
I've
very,
been
very
talking for
respectful.
weeks and years. Listen, I just the podcast is now me and you talking about everything every week. Done. No.
Yes. No, you weren't expecting this and like coming on this podcast, were you?
No, I didn't know what to expect, but it's honestly, Miguel, as soon as you open your mouth well, as soon as I met you, I'm like, "This being right here, I like this one. I like this one a lot. This one's cool." And then as soon as you open your mouth today, I'm like, "Okay, we are on the same page. Let's go play on
Yes.
the page. Let's go talk about stuff." It's yes. Oh, I love it. I think it's important. I think, people term this a highly sensitive person or whatever, and I think I don't see this as I'm speaking for myself, and I don't know if you have the same experience. I suspect you may. This attunement to the wider world in a very specific way that to me feels both sometimes excruciating and also such an incredible privilege to be able to
Yes.
really experience life in this profound and deep and wide way that can be, yes, overwhelming, which is why I'll hermit up sometimes for a while. Because, it's like we met at a convention, and boy, when I go to conventions, when the day is done, I'm like, "I'm out. All done humans, gotta go." And, because I have to recharge, because so much of
Yeah.
that energy went through me, no
Yeah.
matter you can only shield so much, but it feels like a privilege to walk through the world this way. I feel so incredibly lucky, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
No, no, I feel the same way, and we just have to take it step by step every
Yeah.
single day. Every
Yeah.
day is a new day,
It is.
and it's like a lot of people think of. I'm not sure if you look at days in the same way that I do, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday." For me, the day starts when I wake up and ends when I go to sleep and starts all over again. That's my day. And
Mm.
I try to make the most of that time that I'm awake, conscious, and just going. I'm like, all right,
Mhm.
okay, this needs to get done. I'm gonna do this. Oh, this person needs help. Let me go help them. And I
Yeah.
think we're on the same vibe with like I'm just like you in the sense of I want to help people. I that to me,
Yeah.
giving back, helping other people
Yeah.
is and some people are like, well, you need to help yourself. I'm like, but the thing is, if we're all from this infinite well of source,
Mhm.
then we're all permeations of the all of whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So by helping others, we're helping ourselves.
Yeah.
And what I've come to learn when it comes to like abundance, like a lot of people keep saying there's scarcity, there's not enough in the world. I've come to realize there is more than enough
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
And like even if you can't help everyone, helping one or two people here and there goes so far. You can literally either change somebody's life physically by helping them or
Yeah.
change their whole paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
So,
they become a helper. And then
yeah,
we just propagate helpers.
yeah,
Somebody sent me a post the other day, and it was a guy who was saying that, bad things happening in the world stand out because the truth is there's so much good everywhere.
yeah,
So the bad just sticks out. And
yeah,
there's that whole thing about, I forget what they call it, glitter spotting or I can't remember the name of it, but basically catching glimmers instead of catching
yeah.
mistakes and catching problems like, "Oh my gosh, there was another great thing, and there was another great thing." I get up most mornings, and walk, at sunrise. Right now, the
Hmm.
timing of sunrise and school are a little bit off because
Yeah.
sunrise here is, like, right now, like, 7:40 something in the morning because 'cause I'm further north. And this morning I went up and I left the house at like 6:40, and I'm walking and it's dark and I'm not gonna be out in time to get the sunrise. I can't stay that long because I gotta go home, make breakfast and make lunch and
Hmm.
drive the carpool and do all the things and start my day. But I'm walking and it's just dark and there are stars and the moon everywhere, and it was
Yeah.
astonishing. It was so beautiful. And then I get to the ocean where the sunrise is gonna be, and there's clouds, there's a thick cloud bank on the horizon, but there's one slice along the bottom, and it is red, and it is just showing off, and I'm like, "Look